Security is taxed. What a bummer.
I'm Matt Johnson with Social Security Education Center. And Social Security Education Center is a nonprofit. We're dedicated to educating as many Americans as possible about their Social Security filing options prior to their application for Social Security benefits. So today's topic, we're talking about how is Social Security taxed. It's a favorite for a lot of people. It's always fun to pay taxes on what you've already been taxed on. Real bummer, as Hank said, but we're gonna break that down. And I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of retirees and pre-retirees who are trying to figure out when the best time to claim Social Security benefits is. And I see three main points of confusion when it comes to taxes, because there are three main areas where we talk about taxes with Social Security. So we're gonna break that down first, okay? All right, now the first point is payroll taxes, okay? Now, payroll taxes is essentially, that's the Social Security that comes out of your check, that money that you earn. You get a gross amount, then 6.2 comes out. So you pay 6.2%, and then your employer matches it and pays 6.2%, or if you're self-employed, you get to pay both, right? Now that's payroll taxes. Now, one point of confusion, one question I always get is, Matt, okay, I go and I turn on Social Security, but I'm full retirement age, or I'm 70, I still want to work. Do I have to still pay into Social Security? Yes. Unfortunately, you're stuck. Anytime you're earning income, you're paying into Social Security, okay? So for your earned income, you're paying that 6.2%. Now, that's payroll taxes. The next section is what I often see people confuse with how much Social Security taxes they're going to pay on their benefits, okay? And so annual earnings test, these two things are completely separate. Annual earnings test says, prior to your full retirement age, and for most people today who are looking at Social Security, that's gonna be 66 and some change, or if you're born after 1960, it's going to be age 67. Now, if you collect, from age 62 to age 67, so you collect before your full retirement age, you can only make a certain threshold before they start to take away your Social Security benefits. Now, we have a whole video dedicated to the annual earnings test and how much can I make prior to full retirement age. So I'm not gonna get in too deep, but right now for 2024, the threshold is $22,320, okay? But this has nothing to do with are my Social Security benefits taxed or not. That's entirely separate. If I make more than $22,320 before my full retirement age, Social Security will start to take away my benefits, but they're going to give it back as soon as I hit full retirement age. Okay, one of the easiest ways I know how to explain this is an example I always give in class. So I have three little ones, and on Halloween, we all go trick-or-treating, right? So we come back and then kids just wanna go crazy with eating as much candy as they can. So we, as parents, have to limit it, right? And so, that's the annual earnings test. Just like Social Security says, hey, prior to full retirement age, you can only earn a certain amount of income if you want to collect all of your Social Security. That's like us limiting how much our kids are eating at that Halloween candy, that Halloween night, okay? Now, after we get the kids down after that sugar high and we get them to bed late, then my wife comes downstairs and I'm sitting there just rummaging through all the bags of candy looking for any Reese's I can find. My wife says to me, she says, Matt, what are you doing? I said, what am I doing? It's dad tax, right? Dad tax, of course I am obliged to get any Reese's I can.
Don't ever kick my tree again.
Okay. That is this column, okay? How much Social Security tax do I have to pay? Completely independent of the annual earnings test, okay? This is entirely dependent on how much your provisional income is. Okay, now let's get into that here in a sec. So what is provisional income? Okay, so provisional income is how we calculate how much of your Social Security will be taxed. Now, here's the calculation. Well, isn't AI getting better? The finger's a little off, but it's getting better. We're getting there. All right, so provisional income calculation. You take your income before Social Security and you add in half of your Social Security. Or you just take your adjusted gross income and you take out half of your Social Security. There are a couple of other things that you need to add back in, like municipal bond income and whatnot. But for the gist of it is you take your income, you add in half of Social Security's income, and that equals your provisional income, okay? And then what you do is you look at this chart, single, married. So if your provisional income is under $32,000, you're not paying anything on Social Security, okay? You're not paying any taxes. If it's between 32 and 44, you're paying up to 50% on Social Security. Now, if you're paying above that, if your provisional income is higher than that, then you're paying up to 85%. Now, a couple of things, it's a kind of confusing chart, but we're gonna go through some scenarios, different income levels in a minute here that kind of lay this out so you can kind of better think through it. A couple things I think are important to get here though is number one, Social Security, even worst case scenario, 85% taxable, meaning, okay, let's say you make $1 million a year and you have 60,000 coming in from Social Security, only 85% of that is going to be taxable, worst case scenario, okay? So worst case scenario, Social Security is still more tax efficient than your other ordinary income, like your IRA, 401k distributions, or your income from, earned income, pension, annuity, whatever, okay? So Social Security is more tax efficient. The second thing to realize is, okay, this is provisional income. This isn't necessarily your actual income, but at $32,000, nothing is taxed. Up to 50%, that's kind of confusing. Essentially, we're phasing in 50% as we add additional dollars to our income. And then once we cross that threshold, now we're phasing in 85%. So the more income we add, the more of our Social Security is actually taxed. That's called the Social Security tax torpedo. Okay, so if we know that even worst case scenario, Social Security is more tax efficient, more tax favorable than our other ordinary income, let's say we have two families, family A and family B. Family A started Social Security a little bit early. So both of them need $50,000 a year in retirement. Family A started Social Security a little bit earlier, so it's a little less than family B. Which of these families pays more in taxes? If you guessed A, you are correct, okay? Because less of their total income is coming from Social Security, which is more tax efficient, more tax favorable, okay? As opposed to family B, more of their $50,000, more of their needed income is coming from Social Security. So the big point takeaway is if you can maximize how much of your needed income in retirement comes from Social Security, it can mean more tax efficiency for you through retirement. All right, so let's check out the tax return with a certain level of income. Let's look at 70,000 and then we'll look at 100. And let's just look at how taxes change when you go from ordinary income, you're working, to having Social Security, okay? So if we look in here and we look at, okay, so 70,000. Now this says IRA distributions, that could say salary, wages, whatever, it's not gonna make a difference, okay? So let's just assume before you start Social Security, you're making 70,000. Okay, so you come down here, you have the standard deduction. This is for a married couple in 2024. Your taxable income is $40,800, and so your total federal tax is $44,32, okay? Now, what happens if we say, okay, $70,000 of total income still, but we have $40,000 from earned income, or in this case, IRA distributions if you are retired, and $30,000 is coming from our Social Security. Well, Social Security, this is the gross amount that you're receiving per year. About half of that is going to be taxed, okay? When you plug these numbers in to the provisional income formula, $15,000 is going to be taxed, okay? Which gives us an adjusted gross income of 55, netted against the standard, taxable income of 26, or paying 2674. Okay, so you can see already right away that if we add Social Security for a portion of our income, it's more tax favorable, okay? Now let's look at a third scenario. Let's say, let's say we maximize Social Security. So we're going to get a majority of our income from Social Security and then just take a $20,000 401k IRA distribution or work part-time, right? Well, now we come in here because we've reduced the amount that is actually coming from our ordinary income and we've maximized Social Security, in this scenario, only $6,000 of our Social Security is taxable. And so our adjusted gross is 26, which is less than the standard. And so now we don't pay anything in federal income taxes. Okay, now let's look at 100,000. So if you have $100,000 of income, be that IRA distributions, or if you're just working, you come down here, your adjusted gross income is 100, taxable income 70, your total federal tax you're paying is 8,000, okay? Now, what does it look like if we turn on Social Security for a portion of that 100? So now we're only having 60,000 of either IRA distributions or working or pension or whatever. 40,000 of gross Social Security. That brings our taxes down by about $700, okay? Now, what's interesting is this is the maximum amount that we are going to be taxed on our Social Security. So this is 85%. So 85% of our Social Security is taxable, okay, which is worst case scenario. Now here's what's really cool or really interesting. It is if you're a nerd like me. If we just reverse these, okay, so in this scenario, you're getting $60,000 of ordinary income, $40,000 from Social Security. What does it look like if we say, hey, $40,000 of ordinary from like IRA distributions or pensions or whatnot, and then we get $60,000 from Social Security? Well, in that scenario, only 47% of our Social Security is taxed. That's it kind of blows your mind a little bit. It's a weird calculation. It's a weird formula. But the point is, if we can maximize how much of our income comes from Social Security, we can be more tax efficient in the long run. So you come down here, so that's your adjusted gross income is 68, your taxable income is 38, so you're only paying $4,200 in terms of federal income taxes, okay? Now one more scenario to blow your mind. What would it look like if you had $100,000 of just Social Security? Okay, now I know that's not very realistic. Most people, $100,000 is possible if you have two very high earning spouses in a married couple. Most of the time they're going to have other sources of income. But what does it look like if we had $100,000 of just Social Security? Well, only $11,100 of that Social Security is taxable, okay? So netted against the standard deduction, they're not paying anything in federal income taxes. Now, let me kind of walk through why that is, which will hopefully help explain kind of a little bit of the backstory on how this calculation actually happens. Okay, so on $100,000 of income that is only coming from Social Security, here's how the taxes work, okay? So $100,000, keep in mind the provisional income calculation tells you to take out half of that Social Security. Okay, so your provisional income here is $50,000. Okay, and then what you do is here's 0, here's 32,000, here's 44,000. Now remember, the first 32,000 is not taxable at all, okay? In between 32 and 44 is 50% taxable. Okay, so that ends up being $6,000 is taxable. Now, anything over 44,000 of Social Security, any provisional income number over 44,000 is taxed at 85%. Okay, so 50,000 is 6,000 over 44. So 85% of 6,000 is 5,100, which 6,000 plus 5,100 equals 11,100. That's how we get to only 11,100 of the Social Security being taxable, okay? So you can see that as we add ordinary income, be it from IRA distributions, pensions, earned income, annuity income, whatever, we start to give up the tax efficiency, right? Because now we have a greater portion of our provisional income is coming from ordinary income. All right. That's it for today and taxes. How fun was that, talking about how Social Security is taxed? Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.